Welcome. Today we talk about the statue of David by Michelangelo. It was created between 1501 and 1504, and you can admire it at the Accademia gallery in Florence. It represents the biblical hero David and it is 17 feet tall, roughly the size of an adult giraffe. The statue was originally meant to be positioned on the roof of the Cathedral of Florence, and it was actually started by two sculptors around 25 years before. However, they both ended up abandoning the project due to the presence of too many imperfections in the enormous block of marble. The block remained untouched until Michelangelo accepted the challenge to create a large-scale David, and he worked constantly for over 2 years to create one of his most breathtaking masterpieces. At the time he was only 26, but he was already the most famous and best-paid artist in Florence. The subject had already been established, but nobody expected such a revolutionary interpretation of the biblical hero. David was a young Israelite shepherd who accepted to fight Goliath, the champion of the Philistines. David refused to use a shield or a sword, and managed to kill Goliath with just his sling and his rock. He then cut his head off. Traditionally, David had been portrayed after his victory, standing over Goliath's severed head. Michelangelo instead chose to depict David before the battle, for the first time ever. David is tense and concentrated, but he is standing in a relaxed pose. This is a classical pose called contrapposto, which was used a lot by ancient Roman artists. He stands with one leg holding his full weight and the other leg forward, causing his hips and shoulders to rest at opposing angles, giving a slight curve to the entire torso. The slingshot he carries over his shoulder is almost invisible, emphasizing that he won thanks to his cleverness, and not his force. This matched the Renaissance ideal that man's victories are due to intellect and confidence, rather than brute strength. David, in fact, transmits exceptional self-confidence and concentration, both values of the thinking man, which was considered perfection during the Renaissance. When Michelangelo finished the statue, it was decided that it was too perfect to be placed up high in the cathedral, where not many people would have seen it. It was eventually put in Piazza della Signoria, which was the political heart of Florence. It was so heavy that it took 4 days and 40 men to move the statue from Michelangelo's workshop to the square, which was only a half-a-mile journey. Today you can admire an exact copy in the same location, but the original one is kept inside the Accademia gallery. The finished David was popularly known as the Giant, and quickly became a symbol of liberty for the Florentine people, who saw it as an allegory of independence and strength in the perfect image of youthful beauty. This statue tells us a lot about Michelangelo's passion for human anatomy and his deep knowledge of the male body. Note the watchful eyes with carved eye bulks, and the pulsing veins on the back of the hands engorged with tension. Admire the curve of the stretched torso, and the flexing of the thigh muscles in the right leg. David is getting ready for the battle. He is alert and focused. David's head and right hand are unusually big. But this doesn't mean that Michelangelo made an error. These enlargements may be due to the fact that the statue was originally intended to be placed on the cathedral roof line, so important parts of the sculpture had to be accentuated in order to be visible from below. Another interpretation about these larger details lead experts to think that Michelangelo intentionally overproportioned the head to emphasize David's concentration, and the right hand to symbolize the pondered action. Michelangelo might have committed another error on purpose. David is, in fact, slightly cross-eyed. As we said, the artist took inspiration from the works of ancient Romans. He might have wanted to add this detail to signify that his work wasn't meant to steal their place in the canon of perfection. By making David cross-eyed, he made clear that he was a great admirer of the ancient Romans and he simply wanted to pay tribute to them, and not copy their art. This masterpiece raised Michelangelo's profile to new heights, eventually leading to the commission for work on the Sistine Chapel ceiling. We will end the video with a quote from the great Michelangelo: "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set it free." So, what do you think about David? Leave a comment.